is a special edition of WeatherScope. Comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel Forecast Center.
And a good day to you. Thanks for tuning in this weekend to check on Tropical Storm Bertha. As I'm sure for many of you watching, it has ruined your vacation to the seacoast, because we usually see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people vacationing from the Outer Banks of North Carolina on into New England this time of the year, along with boats as well. And that just isn't the case, as Tropical Storm Bertha, which was Hurricane Bertha yesterday, has obviously put a big dent in those plans. Let's go ahead and show you some of the wind gusts that we've seen so far from Bertha, and you can see why you may have seen your plans dented just a little bit. This one stands out more than anything. I mean, this northern topsail beach at 144 miles an hour. Even though it's unofficial there, some of the thinking is that some of the worst damage from Bertha is down in this region here. Onslow Bay, on down toward Curie Beach and Topsail Beach as well, down toward Frying Pan Shoals, Carolina Beach. You'll notice the Frying Pan Shoals was 115 miles an hour there over the open waters. And as the storm moved inland here and continues to move on northward, the wind's not as high, especially inland, but there's 54 at Seaside, Ocean City at 63 miles an hour. So still some pretty intense winds, to say the least. And we still have all of this energy, which continues to move on northward to New England with some very heavy rain. And so far, most of the heavy rain has been inland. But look at this, the northwest flow, the sinking air on the backside of the storm. What a gorgeous time to be down in North Carolina now, at least with regards to the sun. Not so much for the cleanup and the residents that had to deal with Bertha. Well, with us right now, Rick Griffin, who's in Highlands, New Jersey, in extreme northeastern New Jersey, just south of Sandy Hook. And Rick, we have seen from the Doppler radar some of the heaviest rain so far affecting you. Can you confirm that for us?
I can confirm it, Jim. I don't think we've had more than about a half an inch of rain all day long up until about a half an hour ago. And since I talked to you last, it's been raining steadily and fairly heavily. It's definitely a windswept rain right here along the Jersey Shore at this point.
Just looking behind you, Rick, maybe you can have your cameraman pan over to those swells. They look rather angry out there.
It is. It's definitely a turbulent sea today, Jim. Again, as I mentioned last time I talked to you, some of the locals say it's some of the roughest surf they've seen in a long time. The seas have been building ever since we arrived here at about 7 o'clock this morning, and I would estimate some of the waves are running about 10 feet as they crash onto the shoreline. You know, the good news today is the fact that these waves are building as the tide is going out. I think it probably would have been a different story in terms of beach erosion, coastal flooding, had the tide been coming in as the surf built. But it's been the opposite today, which is good news.
Well, Rick, typically this time of the year you have a lot of folks, Ashbury Park, Ocean Grove, Seaside Park, Toms River, real hot vacation spots. Obviously not so today. Have you had any folks come up to you and tell you about their dismay with the weather?
They're not too thrilled about it. And on a sunny day, there would be a lot of folks out here.
No doubt.
But again, there's some windsurfers that are enjoying it, and there are a lot of weather fans out here enjoying Tropical Storm Bertha.
Obviously, the best place to be probably in that Sandy Hook Bay there, where the breakers probably aren't as intense, you think?
They are somewhat sheltered over there. They're getting the strong winds, but the surf, of course, not as high and rough as it is here on the Atlantic side. And again, we can't really see them now because of the rain squall, but there have been 4 or 5 windsurfers over on the other side here the last couple hours.
All right, thank you very much, Rick Griffin, for that report from Highlands, New Jersey. Again, feeling one of the outer bands that Bertha is bringing on with it. Let's go ahead and check out some video for you. We take you to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, folks. The rain is another story here. We here right now and give you the latest on Tropical Storm Bertha. Again, a new advisory coming in 3 hours. I made a mistake earlier. I thought they were still 2 hours, but they are now 3 hours. The storm's inland now, Jim, and they're every 3 hours. So we're waiting for that advisory to come in a little bit later on. Winds 50 miles an hour. It's moving northeast at 24. And right now it appears the center is a little farther north. It's around Brownsville and south of Lakewood in New Jersey. So it's really come on down a little ways. Notice on the satellite picture, all this energy continuing to pass on off toward the north and east, and with it, just a tremendous amount of rain and wind. We did see LaGuardia Airport come in with 38 knots, about 43, 44 miles an hour there. It's been gusty too around Providence and throughout Narragansett Bay, Buzzards Bay, and even in through here we have had reports of winds gusting to around 40 miles an hour just south of Staten Island, so some windy conditions. All right, with us right now, Bill Keneally, who has been in Wilmington, North Carolina, on up toward Albany, across here, the Mass Pike into Boston. There's been reports of 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour rates, so some very heavy rain. And you can even see the banding of the rain as well. And this is really important because not only does it come in waves of heavy rain, but then you get a little bit of a break. Then we get another band of heavy rain and wind, a little bit of a break. So they're just about 20 minutes to an hour apart as they continue to move northward. And it's not only the coastline. I mean, here's Brattleboro, Vermont down and through here. Here's White River up the road a piece. They're getting some heavy rain even into the Merrimack Valley of New Hampshire. So whew, here comes the rain. All right, with us once again, Rick Griffin to give us an update on what's going on.
Well, you described it perfectly just a second ago, Jim. All day long, we've seen the sky lighten up, the rain slacken, and then the skies darken off to our southeast as the next band of squally weather heads in. The rain comes down hard. The winds pick up. Typical tropical type weather, I guess you could say.
And the folks, you seem to have a few more folks behind you now than you did earlier on. They're just kind of saying, okay, hey, it's my vacation. I'm going to come out and enjoy it anyway, regardless of the weather.
Everybody seems to be curious. Most folks are down taking a look at the very rough surf along the Atlantic beaches today, and that surf continues to crash in to the beaches. As it has been all day long. It's been picking up, it's been increasing, and the waves have been increasing in size since we arrived here earlier this morning. So that seems to be the main attraction right now.
And tomorrow, Rick, by the time we talk to you, or if we talk to you tomorrow at this time, the sun will be out, and it'll be a pretty nice day along the Jersey Shore.
And I'm sure the folks will be back out here on the beaches.
All right, thank you very much for that update. Again, Rick Griffin from Highlands, New Jersey, and that's just to the south of Sandy Hook, one of the most I guess, farthest northeast points that you can get in New Jersey without dumping yourself right into the water. Let's go ahead and show you what the latest radar is once again on Bertha. And again, this is another story, the rainfall. It is going to be very, very heavy. We're still expecting 3 to perhaps 5 additional inches of rain. And one of the interesting things we've noted from the Doppler radars, I'll show you in a second, is some of the heaviest rain has been inland. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. Here's a look at the Doppler radar out of New York, or Atlantic City, and you will notice here that the center continues to head on off toward the northeast now, toward a little bit. Heading back toward the coastline, Rick is up here in Highlands, New Jersey, Sandy Hook right about here, and the bay is where we're finding or hearing a lot of folks windsurfing today. Looks like that one heavy band has passed him by, and now we have a couple of more bands off to the south. Not obviously as strong, but still heavy rain and wind definitely a possibility here as the center continues to pull on northward. And even in some of the sunshine, as you saw, back there on the backside of the storm in south central Jersey, down around Vineland and Hamilton and Millville, the bands are starting to increase in intensity once again, where we're getting some more showers and storms. Now this has been a really interesting band here, this one that's continuing to affect the outer parts of Long Island, right in through here, and continue to pull on off toward the north and east. It's had some gusty winds with it. We saw a wind gust earlier at Ocean City, about 64 miles an hour. We've been tracking that band farther northeast in time. Again, that was the Doppler radar out of New York City. You can see here that the rainfall has been heavy. This is the radar, and it's in storm total. It's actually estimating the rainfall that has occurred. Now this may be a little bit overdone, but I wanted to show it to you anyway because it brings up a good point. It hasn't been too bad across Long Island. Notice you're in the darker green there. But inland sections, especially from about Mercer County on northward toward Plainfield and west on I-80 up through Sussex County, we notice a very heavy rain there up to the Hudson Valley, western Connecticut, a little bit of a break over the Connecticut Valley. Then we pick it up again in Rhode Island up into Massachusetts with what could be anywhere from 2 to perhaps 6 inches of rain. Now this is the Doppler radar too, the same one out of New York City. Notice it says radial velocity there. It's estimating the wind field. And of course the closer you are to the radar site, the better estimation you're going to be. And you'll notice how the colors change dramatically north of the radar site or north of Long Island, and it's still showing a predominant south wind. I mean, there's nothing changing there. But sometimes you can look into some of these bands here, and unfortunately my telestrator is just kind of clonked out on me, but I was going to show you, look south of Montauk Point and the Hamptons. You'll see that light blue band with the occasional darker blue colors mixed in. That was an earlier band that was showing winds anywhere from 30 to 50 knots. That seems to have decreased in intensity now. So good news. Winds maybe not as strong as what we saw earlier on the Jersey coast with that band. Notice from Hartford down to Providence, some heavy rain. Boston's been in and out of these heavy rain bands. You're getting a break now in East Boston, but look down the road a piece, especially down along the 495 corridor. There's a very heavy rain band which will be working northeast, and that extends all the way back west into Worcester. So it's going to rain pretty heavily in Boston probably within the next 10, to 20 minutes. Rain and wind and just a miserable time to be at the coastline for your summer vacation. And obviously we have to feel for the folks with homes down in North Carolina and obviously the folks that have lost some property and whatnot. We have heard of no deaths so far for Bertha, at least here back in the States. That is the good news, and we'll continue to keep you posted as Bertha moves northward. Stay tuned for your local forecast.
What plan for children?
Edition of WeatherScope. Comprehensive severe weather coverage from the Weather Channel Forecast Center.
You're looking at live pictures of our coverage of Tropical Storm Bertha. This is Highlands, New Jersey, and obviously not a beautiful day where this time of the year typically you would find hundreds of thousands of people on the Jersey coast enjoying the sun and the surf, but today obviously is not one of those days as Tropical Storm Bertha continues to move northward with wind and some very heavy rain. We have had some new developments with regards to Bertha. A tornado watch has now been issued. I will show that to you graphically in just a moment, but first of all, let's get to the latest winds. This thing has been a big-time wind producer. Look at this, 144 miles an hour. It continues to spin on off to the north. And interesting, over the last couple of shots, we have noted around this thing, a few showers have developed too across southern New Jersey. And I'll show that to you in just a moment on the Doppler radar. Right now with us from Highlands, New Jersey, our very own Rick Griffin, who continues to report on this squally, windy day along the Jersey Shore. What's the latest, Rick?
Well, Jim, it continues to rain lightly here in Highlands, right here in the Gateway National Recreation Area, just south of Sandy Hook, as you mentioned. Not raining as heavily now as it was about a half an hour ago, and once again, it seems as though the winds continue to slacken off, nowhere near where they were a couple hours ago, Jim.
What's the latest you have for us on the beaches there, Rick? There haven't been reports of a lot of beach erosion, but is there some areas that are worse than others?
I would say there's been some beach erosion, but apparently there hasn't been anything real significant. I think they're still a bit concerned about it because they have been replenishing the sand over the past couple of years, ever since, actually, I guess since the blizzard of '92 when they had such big problems around here. And they don't want to see, obviously, the sand be taken out to sea. But so far, the people we've been able to talk to have not indicated that it's been a serious problem. And flooding. We just talked to the Highlands Police Department, and they indicated that the town of Highlands is actually below sea level, so they have pumps to take the water out of the town if there's a lot of rainfall or high water, and that has not been the case today. They are not reporting any serious flooding whatsoever.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that some of the rainfall, at least the heaviest rain, was farther inland, so that, at least that's good news for Highlands.
It has been good news. In addition to that, we've had some power outages reported, but those as well have been brief. We understand that the power companies have been able to get the power back in a short period of time. At last report, that was the case. Okay,
so some power outages. Thank you, Rick, for that report. Again, folks, beach is not faring too badly on the Jersey Shore right now from what we've heard, but that's just one location in northeastern New Jersey, which is still probably about 70, 80 miles north of the center of circulation. So we may not have seen the worst there yet, but at least Rick seems to be in a little bit of a break. Well, we have seen and heard of some very, very heavy rain. Let's go ahead and take you to Elizabeth City, North Carolina, where we had rain last night. 24 minutes, and we'll pass it along to you. Looks like the center is now just to the south of I guess, Wrightstown, New Jersey, or very, very close to Wrightstown, New Jersey, and continuing to move to the north. So it's north of Atlantic City at the present time, and it's actually kind of hugging the coastline as it continues to move on northward. Still a considerable amount of cloudiness on the southwestern side of the storm, but as you will note, heading down through Delaware from Dover, south across the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and Tunnel. Still a very breezy day, but at least the sunshine has returned. Tropical, here's the Mass Pike right here, crossing through Worcester, heading through central Mass, continuing on westward toward Albany, New York. An extremely wet drive for you there. Interstate 91 down through the Connecticut Valley towards Bridgeport and New Haven. Here's the New England Thruway as we pick it up through Providence and into Boston, continuing on northward toward Portland. Interstate 93 up through Concord. Oh, actually, that's 89, Jim. There's 93 on northward. So really, all these interstates, not exactly a pretty day to be traveling in through here. Here's the current weather watch that we have for you. A tornado watch has been issued until 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Word is out of the National Weather Service out of New York City that Doppler radar is indicating a strengthening line of thunderstorms about 30 miles south of Montauk Point. These storms moving north-northwest at about 40 knots, and I will show those to you in just a moment. Again, looking at the center of circulation, almost looks like it wants to reappear here and head back offshore as it continues to move on northeast. Obviously a very well-defined circulation center still. But just because it moves offshore again, we don't think it's going to strengthen. The whole thing potentially can't move offshore. Plus, the water temperatures are more and more cold here as the farther north we go. Now, this is that band that they're talking about here on the radar. And, of course, just in time, folks, for me to show you that band, my telestrator goes out, so I can't point to it for you. I know. But anyway, you can see here from Montauk Point, which is the eastern part of Long Island, the Hamptons, as they call it here, they are dealing, hey, there we go, dealing with this line as it continues to move north. Now, several heavy bands of rain continue to push up from eastern Connecticut into the Boston area. So some of the worst rain right now is from Boston, south to Providence, south to coastal Connecticut. And this rain and wind is going to be with us for the next couple of hours or so. And also, we think some of the worst winds with the storm are going to be here as well. And this is the Doppler radar rainfall estimates, looking at the heaviest rain just west of Newport, Rhode Island, just south of Providence, up through Foxborough, where they've received on the scale estimates of 3 to 4 inches of rain. And this is just in a 17-hour period. It's very typical of tropical storm force conditions. We'll continue to cover the storm as it makes its way toward the Jersey coast again. We'll have a new advisory from the Hurricane Center. We'll check back in with Rick to see if conditions are going downhill there, and we will show you live shots of the beaches in northern New Jersey, where, as I mentioned, a lot of folks would be more than happy to trade this weather for a nice day at the beach. Right now, the latest on the forecasts with Dan Atkinson in the studio.
And thank you, Jim, for...
Quickly, northeast bound at 24 miles per hour. It has been pulled into or entrained into the upper level westerlies to a large extent, so that accounts for its rapid speed now. And sustained winds still at 50 miles per hour, especially as you're getting close to our circulation center, which continues to make its way across southernmost New Jersey near Atlantic City with a pressure of about 995 millibars. And you'll notice the coordinates as of 11 a.m., but keep in mind that's about 3 hours ago, and it's moving pretty quickly here to the northeast. We still have tropical storm warnings that affect from high water level. And we have had a new tornado watch issued. We had one earlier this morning. We went through a brief period of time where we did not have a tornado watch. We have a new tornado watch in effect until 8 p.m., very typical, out ahead of these tropical weather systems. Even though they've been over land for a considerable time, it's especially likely in that northeastern quadrant of the approaching tropical system that you're going to see some of the tornadic systems. Those tornadoes, by the way, tend to be fairly weak tornadoes. They can touch down and lift back up very quickly, but again, that threat is there. You can get the sense of the circulation here if you watch the radar echoes kind of swirling around a common point as we go towards Atlantic City. Notice to the south, though, how it does dry out nicely. At least the rain coming to an abrupt halt, and then perhaps another line of showers trying to reform in that tropical air that's left in behind the storm circulation. And those bands just continue to whip up and plaster Long Island, Connecticut. Not within radar view, but we can tell you it's been a rotten day around the Capital District over here in Albany. Greene, Ulster County, Rensselaer County. Lots of rain reported. Likewise in the Berkshires, Massachusetts, northwestern hills around Litchfield in Connecticut. And you're going to have a lot more rain in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, as we'll still be dealing with the forward side of the approaching tropical storm well into the evening hours. So in addition to the potential flooding problems at the time of high tide, we're going to have also inland flooding. And in some cases, some of these bigger rivers like the Patuxent River in Rhode Island may take quite a long time to feel the effects of all that runoff. And it could be noon. A tornado watch has been issued. Let's take a look at what's happening elsewhere across the country. Severe weather threatens the western high plains into the southwest and even parts of the mid-south and southeast late today.